Good evening, you tired, brave human. You've carved out a pocket of quiet, and you're about to spend it on a city made of baked sunlight and river breath. In your mind, Babylon waits at dusk, where the Euphrates loosens its grip and the air turns warm and honeyed, as if the wind has been resting in clay. Lanterns begin to glow. Palm fronds hush together. Brick towers keep the last blush of day. You think you'll stay alert for all of it, which is adorable. Babylon specializes in gently winning that argument. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and let me know how your day has really been, your worries, your exhaustion, or even a tiny joy that made you smile. I'm here to truly listen and offer the most sincere, heartfelt advice I can. Now turn off the lights. Take a deep, slow breath. Let your tiredness melt away, and gently close your eyes. Let's drift together into tonight's dreamlike lands. And tomorrow morning, if you still remember, send me a message and tell me what you dreamed. You arrive without fanfare, because Babylon doesn't need applause. It gathers along the Euphrates as the sun lowers, and the river beside you carries a copper sheen that seems to light the underside of the air. Smoke from cooking fires drifts in soft ribbons. Reeds smell clean and watery. Dust rises with each step, then settles again, unbothered, like it has seen everything and learned the art of staying quiet. Your feet find the riverbank first, packed earth pressed smooth by countless arrivals. Near the waterline, small boats rock against ropes, wood creaking in a slow, sleepy complaint. Across the water, silhouettes finish the last tasks of daylight, bundles tightened, poles lifted, loads guided home. No one rushes. The city moves with the steady confidence of a place that expects to be here tomorrow. A breeze slides off the river and brings a faint tang of bitumen, the dark resin used to seal and bind. It smells like persistence. Babylon is built from mud and fire, from hands repeating careful motions until the earth agrees to become shelter. You don't need a lecture to understand that. You can feel it in the firmness under your feet and the calm in the work around you. Ahead, the skyline forms in layers. Low roofs and courtyard walls make the first line. Beyond them, taller shapes lift, gatehouses, towers, stepped platforms. At the center, the ziggurat gathers the fading light and keeps it, a dark mass with edges still glowing. It looks less like a building and more like an intention. Stack the world upward until it can touch the stars. Above the rooftops, the first stars prickle into view, faint at first, then steadier, as if someone is turning the sky's brightness knob with careful patience. You notice how the city's edges catch that emerging light, a ridge of brick here, a tower corner there, a suggestion of glazed color far inside the walls, blue that looks impossible at this hour, like dusk has hidden a jewel for later. It's enough to make you slow your steps without thinking. Somewhere higher than you'd expect, greener than seems possible, you sense the hanging terraces. You don't see every leaf yet. You feel their coolness waiting behind the city's warm breath. The air in that direction seems softened, as if shade is already at work. Babylon's first lesson is simple. You can understand a place without forcing it to explain itself. As dusk deepens, lamps wake along the riverside. Small flames bloom under clay covers, turning into steady beads of amber. Their reflections scatter across the water, broken and reunited by ripples, like the river is practicing constellations for later. You follow a path that hugs the river's curve. Heat stored in the ground rises into your soles, slow and soothing, like leaning against a sun-warmed wall. You tell yourself you'll be efficient about this. Observe, remember, stay awake. Sure. Babylon listens politely and continues being Babylon, which is to say, persuasive. Palm trees lean over the walkway, fronds whispering as they brush together. Beneath them, baskets and jars sit in tidy clusters, goods waiting to be carried inward. Somewhere deeper in the city, a drum keeps a slow rhythm, not urgent, just present, like a heartbeat you can borrow if yours has been sprinting all day. The bricks around you deepen as the light fades, turning from pale gold to rose and umber. You notice fingerprints and tool marks, tiny variations that prove this city was made by touch. That detail makes Babylon feel close, almost tender. It isn't asking you to admire it loudly, it's inviting you to settle. You reach a low quay where the river meets dressed stone. When you rest your palm on it, coolness travels up your arm like a quiet instruction. Slow down. You let the Euphrates carry away the leftovers of your day. Your clenched jaw, your tight shoulders, your brain's insistence on productivity even while resting. From this angle, you can trace the suggestion of a grand road leading inward, a corridor between walls pointing toward the city's heart. You don't take it yet. Tonight is for arrival, for letting Babylon settle around you like scented air. You watch lamplight grow steadier, you listen to oars dip and lift, and you feel the distant ziggurat holding the sky in place, patient as a mountain, waiting for you to come closer when you're ready. You leave the river's edge the way you leave a warm blanket, slowly, reluctantly, and with the small hope it will follow you. The Euphrates stays behind, still breathing copper and reed-sweet air, while you step into narrower streets where the city's warmth gathers and thickens. The lamplight here isn't scattered like it was on water. It pools, clings to walls, and turns corners into little caves of amber. The first thing you notice is the smell of clay, freshly wetted earth, sun-baked brick, and the faint smoky bite of kilns that have been working since afternoon. It's a scent that feels honest. No perfume can imitate it without lying. Babylon is made from the ground itself, and it doesn't bother hiding the fact. You walk beneath low lintels and along walls that hold the day's heat like memory. The street narrows, then widens again into a market space. Even at dusk, it's alive in the calm, methodical way of a place that knows how to finish its chores without drama. Stalls are arranged like a practice pattern, baskets, jars, woven mats, stacked reeds, and heaps of fruit that look like they've caught and kept the last light. Dates dominate the scene, clusters of deep brown, glossy as polished wood, piled in mounds that resemble small hills. Some are wrinkled, some plump, some pale with a dusting of sugar. You catch their scent before you touch them, caramel, smoke, and a soft bitterness that makes your mouth water. Nearby, a mortar turns with slow pressure. Something fragrant is being crushed, seeds, spice, maybe dried petals, until the air tastes of warmth. Hands pass you things without words. A small piece of date pressed flat and wrapped in leaf, a sip of cool water from a jug, a pinch of salt that grounds the sweetness. You accept because your body knows better than your pride. It's the first time all day you feel fed in a way that isn't hurried. Your hosts, because that's what they are, even without speeches, move around you with gentle competence. A person lifts a lamp higher on a hook so it throws light farther down the lane. Another sweeps the dusty edge of the walkway with a bundle of reeds, making a soft brushing sound that could put a restless mind to sleep. You watch their pace, and without realizing it, your pace matches. Beyond the dates, the market's textures multiply. Wool cloth hangs in heavy folds, absorbing light. Fine linen drapes like moonlit water. Pottery sits in rows, each jar slightly different, some with narrow necks, some broad-mouthed, some painted with simple bands. You pause at a stack of bowls, and your fingers trace their rims. The clay is smooth but not sterile. It keeps the tiny roughness of something shaped by hand. It feels like touching time. You move deeper and find a cluster of tablet makers and scribes at a low bench. No grand announcement, no stage, just a small lamp, a tray of damp clay, and a set of reeds cut to precise angles. You watch the stylus press into the clay with careful, repeatable force. It makes a sound like soft rain and mud. Each wedge mark is crisp, each line a miniature architecture. You can tell, even without understanding every symbol, that this is how Babylon holds itself together. Buildings are one kind of structure. Records are another. A city of this size can't rely on memory alone. It needs clay to remember for it, needs lines that don't get tired, doesn't forget, doesn't reinterpret the way humans do when they're stressed and hungry. You feel the comfort of that, a world that stores its truths in earth. A small pile of broken tablets sits nearby, set aside like discarded shells. The sight gives you a flicker of unease, because you know, instinctively, that information is fragile. Clay can crack. Ink can smear. Stories can be lost if the right hands aren't careful. You don't know yet that this thought will matter. For now it's only a whisper at the edge of your mind, like the river's sound fading behind you. The market shifts toward food. A low brazier glows under skewers, fat dripping and hissing softly. Flatbreads are lifted from hot surfaces, steam rising in slow ribbons. Someone brushes oil across warm dough, and the shine catches the lamplight like a promise. You catch the scent of onions, herbs, and something sour, fermented, sharp, bright, cutting through the richness. You pass a stall of pomegranates split open to show their red jewels. Another of figs, soft and purple, with pale flesh peeking at the stems. Somewhere, a jar of honey sits with a wooden dipper resting inside, as if the sweetness is too heavy to lift without assistance. You take in all of it with the quiet hunger of someone who has been too busy to notice how the world tastes. As night settles, the market doesn't end, it simply softens. The noise becomes a murmur. The lamps are adjusted, moved closer to hands and faces, turning the wider space into smaller circles of light. Your hosts guide you, not by pulling you, but by drifting in a direction that makes you want to follow. You find yourself turning down a lane where the brick walls rise higher, and the air cools slightly in their shade. Here the scent of bitumen returns, faint but steady, reminding you of the river and the stubbornness of things that last. You spot a drain channel along the edge of the street, water trickling through it, controlled, contained, treated like something precious even when it's only a thin line. Babylon respects water the way a tired person respects sleep, not as a luxury, but as a necessary miracle. You glance upward and catch a sliver of sky between rooftops, a rectangle of deepening blue with a few stars now brighter than before. The ziggurat's shadow is somewhere ahead, though you can't see it from this narrow lane. You feel it instead, like gravity, like intention. You step over a threshold into a quieter stretch where the market's sweetness lingers on your breath, where clay and smoke and warm bread settle into your clothes. Your body is heavier now, not with exhaustion, but with comfort. The city has begun its slow work on you, feeding, steadying, turning your thoughts into something softer. And as you continue inward, you carry a small, sticky piece of date sweetness on your tongue like a secret, one you'll remember later when Babylon asks you, gently, to help it remember something too. You follow the lane as it straightens, and the market's perfumes thin behind you, date sweetness fading into a quiet aftertaste, bread warmth dissolving into the steady scent of fired clay. The lamps become more deliberate here, placed as if someone has planned the night in advance. Light no longer just happens, it is arranged. The walls rise higher, and then, almost without warning, the city opens. You step into a broad corridor of space that feels ceremonial even when it's empty. The air changes. It's cooler, clearer, as if the street itself has been washed and smoothed for your bare attention. Your footsteps sound different too, less muffled, more crisp, because the ground is firmer, more carefully laid, more willing to echo. Ahead, the blue appears. At first it is only a hint, a deepening color at the far end of the way, like twilight concentrated into brick. Then you walk a few more paces and it becomes unmistakable, glazed surfaces catching lamplight and turning it into jewel tones. Blue so saturated it looks almost liquid. Blue that makes the ordinary night sky seem shy by comparison. You slow down, because you're human, and humans are helpless around beautiful things. You also slow down because Babylon clearly expects you to. This avenue is built for measured steps and long looks, not for rushing through while checking imaginary notifications in your head. On either side of the processional way, lions emerge along the walls, relief after relief, proud bodies repeating at intervals like a rhythm. Their muscles are stylized but convincing, their paws lifted mid-stride, their tails curling with controlled confidence. Some catch the lamplight along their outlines. Others retreat into shadow, becoming less animal and more simple. You realize quietly that these lions are not here to scare you. They're here to hold the space. They make the road feel protected, like you're walking through a corridor of guardians who don't need to prove anything. Your hosts drift beside you, close enough to keep you from wandering into the wrong turn, far enough to let you feel like you're discovering this on your own. A hand gestures gently toward the glaze, not demanding admiration, simply offering it. Another hand lifts a lamp so the light grazes the wall at a lower angle, and suddenly the surface changes. You can see the tiny ridges of each brick, the seams where one piece meets the next, the way the glaze pools slightly in shallow depressions. It's not a flat, perfect blue. It's blue with a life inside it, blue that remembers fire. You lean in, close enough to smell it, and you catch a faint mineral scent beneath the night air, something like warm stone after rain. The glaze feels cool when your fingers hover near it, as if the wall has been saving its heat for the bricks behind the shine. You think of the river's copper sheen, still flowing somewhere back there, and you understand that Babylon is a city that likes to play with light. It doesn't just accept what the sky gives. It makes its own. The lions repeat, and repetition begins to soothe you. Each one is similar, but not identical. A paw lifts higher. A mane curves differently. A line of the body holds more tension. The effect is subtle, like the variation in handmade pottery rims you touched earlier. The city's grandest art still carries fingerprints in its spirit. This is not decoration for decoration's sake. It is a statement made brick by brick. We are here, we are ordered, we can make beauty that lasts longer than a day's mood. The avenue stretches forward, and you let it take you. Lamplight flickers along the blue, making it shimmer as if the walls are breathing. Your mind tries to label things: gate, beast, glaze, brick, but the labels fall away quickly. You don't need words to feel what this place is doing. It is guiding your nervous system into quieter patterns. It is giving your eyes something steady to follow, so your thoughts don't have to sprint. The gate at the end of the way rises like a piece of night sky brought down to earth. Its mass is undeniable, but the color makes it feel strangely weightless, as if it could float if the right star pulled it. The archway is framed with bands and shapes, animal forms, rosettes, lines that repeat with sacred patience. The beasts there aren't only lions. Other creatures appear, long-bodied and watchful, their forms half familiar, half dream. You don't stop to name them precisely. You simply let them be what they are. Babylon's way of saying the world is larger than your personal stress. As you approach, the blue deepens to near black in the shadows, then flares bright where lamps touch it. The contrast is hypnotic. You feel your eyelids soften, not from boredom, but from a kind of visual lullaby. Your hosts keep moving, and you keep moving too, because the road is doing its job. It is pulling you forward with calm certainty. Passing beneath the gate is like crossing a threshold in your own body. The sound changes. The air changes again. You feel the slight compression in your chest that comes from stepping into a space marked as important, even if no one announces it. Your shoulders lower anyway, because importance here isn't shouted, it's built. Inside the gate, the processional way continues, and the lions continue with it, as if they've been waiting all evening just to escort you. The ground underfoot is clean, swept, maintained. You notice, with a small, sleepy amusement, that even the dust seems more polite on this street. It settles quickly. It doesn't cling to your ankles as much. Babylon has standards. You walk on, and with every few steps you pick up another detail. The way the glaze cracks in tiny patterns like dried riverbeds. The way brick edges catch the light like thin gold. The way the lion's eyes, though made of simple shapes, still manage to look forward with purpose. These are not wild animals frozen in panic. They are calm creatures in motion. They are the opposite of your anxious spirals. They are steady. Behind you, the market's murmur becomes distant. The scent of dates lingers only in memory now, like a small sweetness you can summon if you want. Ahead, the ziggurat's presence grows heavier in the air, though you still can't see it clearly from here. You sense it the way you sense thunder before it speaks, an immense shape waiting beyond walls, beyond courtyards, beyond the city's glowing skin. As you move along the lion-lined avenue, you begin to understand the city's secret. Babylon doesn't just show you beauty. It arranges you inside it. It makes you part of its order, one quiet footstep at a time, until your mind starts to move the way the lions move, forward, unhurried, confident, and strangely safe. The processional way does not end so much as it releases you. One moment you are walking beside glazed blue and repeating lions, your senses tuned to ceremony and scale, and the next you are guided, gently, almost casually, into a side passage where the walls step closer, the light softens, and the city becomes intimate. It's a relief you didn't know you needed. The Grand Avenue still exists behind you, still shining and guarded, but here the lamplight is quieter, sheltered from wind. The air smells less like glaze and more like damp earth, herbs bruised underfoot, and the faint mineral chill of stored water. Your hosts lead you through a narrow bend that opens suddenly into a courtyard, and your whole body exhales at once, as if the space itself has permission to breathe. The courtyard is simple, almost plain by Babylon standards, yet it holds a kind of hidden luxury. Shade. Walls surround it, high enough to break the night breeze into slow eddies. A few small trees lean inward, their leaves catching lamp glow and turning it into gentle flickers. At the center sits a well, stone-ringed, dark-mouthed, patient. A rope rests against its lip, coiled with the neatness of habit. Nearby, jars stand in a cluster like sleeping animals, bellies full of coolness. You can feel the temperature drop the moment you step inside. Not cold, just cooled, like the relief of a cloth pressed to your forehead. The city outside stores heat in bricks and holds it close. Here, the heat is politely asked to wait. Your hosts begin their quiet routines. A jar is lifted with careful hands. A ladle dips into water that sounds deep, even from this distance. A soft glug, then a pause, then the faint drip as droplets rejoin the world. Water is poured into a smaller vessel and set down, as if for you. No one insists. It is simply there, waiting in the same calm way Babylon keeps offering you kindness without demanding gratitude. You take it, because your throat has been dry for longer than you admitted. The water tastes like stone and night, clean and slightly sweet, and it settles into you like a decision. Yes, you are allowed to be here. Yes, you are allowed to rest. Nearby, a basin sits on a low stand. A cloth is dipped, wrung out, and folded. A hand gestures toward it in the universal language of, "You look like you've been carrying too much." You wash your hands slowly, letting the coolness travel along your fingers and into your palms. Dust slides away. Market sweetness dissolves. The memory of the river returns, not as distance, but as presence, water following you inward, the Euphrates calm now stored in a jar. The courtyard has sounds, but none of them are sharp. Reeds brush against each other at the edge of a mat. A broom made of bundled twigs makes a soft, rhythmic shush against the ground. Somewhere above, a dove shifts in its sleep. Even your own breathing sounds different in this enclosed space, lower and steadier, like the walls are holding your chest gently in place. You notice details now that you might have missed on the Grand Avenue. Along one wall, bricks are patched where old sections cracked. The repairs aren't hidden. They're simply done well, with the quiet pride of maintenance. A city that lasts isn't one that never breaks. It's one that keeps repairing itself without drama. The thought lands somewhere deep in you, a small truth you'll carry even after Babylon fades. Your hosts move as if they've done this 1,000 times, because they have. They check jars, cover openings, adjust mats, and place small oil lamps in niches to keep the flames safe from drafts. The lamps are not just light, they are control. In a world where darkness can swallow detail, Babylon makes sure the important corners stay visible. You wander to the edge of the courtyard where a narrow channel runs along the base of the wall. Water trickles there too, thin, measured, guided by gentle slope. It's the opposite of waste. You watch it and understand that in Babylon, water is treated like knowledge, precious, directed, stored carefully, and never taken for granted. A small shelf is built into the wall, just a few brick ledges, but it holds objects arranged with intention. A bundle of reeds cut for writing sits beside a smooth stone used for pressing clay. A set of seals, small carved pieces, rests in a shallow dish. You recognize them from the market, even if you didn't know you were taking notes. The tools that make records, the tools that keep order, the tools that turn soft clay into remembered truth. Your fingers hover above the seals. Some are engraved with simple patterns, lines, spirals, rosettes. Others carry more complex images, animals, gods, symbols that look like stories pressed into a circle. Each seal is a signature, a claim, a way of saying, "This belongs to this person, this place, this moment." You don't touch them yet. You simply let your eyes learn their shapes, storing them the way your mind stored the lions. Repetition, variation, meaning. A jar of clay sits covered with a damp cloth. The clay underneath is kept soft, ready. Babylon doesn't wait until it urgently needs to remember something. It keeps the remembering materials prepared. Your hosts lift the cloth for a moment, and the clay's scent rises, earthy, wet, alive. It's strangely comforting, like the smell of rain before it arrives. You find yourself smiling at the thought of it, a city with backup plans. A city that preps its calm. In a corner, someone has laid out herbs to dry, thin stems and leaves arranged on woven mats. They smell sharp and green, cutting through the softer scents of water and oil. Your hosts brush them lightly, checking for dust, turning them so they dry evenly. The care is gentle, patient, almost parental. Babylon's intimacy is not a performance, it is a habit. You settle onto a mat near the well, and the stone rim is cool beside your shoulder. Your body begins to understand the rhythm here. Drink, wash, sit, breathe. The world doesn't ask for more than that. The city doesn't demand your attention like a noisy festival. It offers you steady things, water, shade, tools, routine, until your mind quiets enough to hear what it has been ignoring. Above the courtyard wall, a strip of sky shows the stars more clearly now. They are sharper without the river's reflections and without the market's chaos. The ziggurat's presence feels closer too, looming somewhere beyond, like a dark staircase waiting for your feet. But for the moment, you stay in the courtyard, letting cool water settle behind your ribs and letting the whisper of reeds and the soft shush of sweeping lull you. You don't know yet that a missing tablet will later wobble this calm. You only know that, if it happens, these shelves of tools and these habits of careful hands will matter. Because Babylon doesn't panic. It prepares. It restores. It remembers. You leave the courtyard the way you leave a quiet room in your own mind, gently, with a little regret, and with the calm still clinging to you like cool water on your hands. The well's stone rim fades behind you, the shelf of seals and reeds disappears into shadow, and the lane ahead curves upward, subtly at first, then with more intention, as if Babylon is guiding your feet toward a different kind of hush. The air changes before the view does. You start to notice it as a cooling along your cheeks, a faint dampness that wasn't present on the processional way. It smells green. Not the sharp green of herbs drying on mats, but the deeper green of leaves holding nighttime moisture, of soil shaded all day, of water tucked into channels and jars and stone basins. The city's warmth is still around you. Brick always remembers the sun, but now the warmth is being negotiated, tempered, softened by living things. Your hosts lead you toward a stair that looks almost ordinary, built into a thick wall. No grand proclamation, no ornate gate. Just steps, worn at the edges, suggesting they've been climbed by countless bare feet and sandal soles. The lamps here are smaller and placed lower, casting light that hugs the steps and makes the climb feel safe, not dramatic. Babylon does not want you to trip, it wants you to ascend. You place your foot on the first step, and the brick is warm from the day's stored heat. It's like stepping onto a slowly cooling loaf of bread, comforting, solid, unhurried. The second step is warmer. The third is cooler again, as if the air's dampness is already winning small arguments with the sun's memory. As you climb, the sounds change. Street murmurs drop away. The market's soft bustle is gone now, replaced by quieter noises. The faint trickle of water somewhere above, the rustle of leaves shifting in the breeze, the occasional soft clink of pottery being set down gently. Even your own breath seems louder for a moment, then evens out, matching the rhythm of your steps. You turn a corner in the stairwell and reach a landing where the city opens outward in a layered view. Roofs spread like dark quilts, lamps dyeing them like scattered embers. In the distance, the ziggurat sits heavier against the sky, its stepped silhouette now clearer, a darker shape holding a calmer darkness behind it. Stars hang above like tiny punctures in a vast cloth. But your attention keeps drifting upward, drawn by something cooler and softer. Ahead, a passage leads into the terraces, and the air flowing from it carries the scent of damp soil and crushed leaves. It feels like a doorway into a different climate, a private pocket of night. You step through. The hanging terraces do not announce themselves as a garden. They reveal themselves as a relief. The first thing you feel is the temperature drop, more pronounced than in the courtyard. The second thing you feel is moisture on your skin, not enough to be wet, just enough to make you aware of your own tired heat evaporating. The third thing you feel is the quiet thrill of being somewhere that shouldn't exist, greenery rising above a city of brick, living plants balanced and maintained in tiers. You stand at the edge of the first terrace level, and your eyes adjust. Leaves catch lamplight and turn it into soft reflections. Vines drape over low walls. Pots and beds are arranged with a deliberate logic. Nothing random, nothing left to chance. Babylon does not grow wild here. It grows designed. A narrow channel runs along the terrace edge, carrying water in a thin line that glimmers like a moving thread. You follow it with your eyes, watching it slip around corners, disappear briefly, then reappear in another trough. The water seems to climb with you, as if the city has taught it to defy gravity through patience and cleverness. Your hosts show you the method without words. A hand points toward a shaft where ropes hang, and you hear the soft creak of wood and pulley. Somewhere above or behind, a mechanism turns, slow, steady, lifting water in measured amounts. It's not a violent effort. It's the kind of labor that can run for hours because it doesn't fight the body. It cooperates with it. You imagine the chain of containers, the careful timing, the way water is raised and then guided into channels that distribute it across each level. You don't need the exact engineering schematic to appreciate the feeling. Water is being persuaded upward, not forced. Babylon is good at persuasion. You take a few steps along the terrace path. Underfoot, the surface is firm but slightly textured, designed to prevent slipping in damp air. The plants here are not merely decorative, they are functional. They create shade, humidity, fragrance. They cool the air and soften the city's edges. They make a high place feel like a sheltered valley. The scent is layered. You catch the sweetness of blossoms you can't see in the dim. You catch the sharp, clean edge of crushed stems. You catch earth, dark, rich, damp, held in beds deep enough to support roots. You think briefly of the market state sweetness and realize this is its cousin, a different kind of abundance, less sticky, more breathable. Your hosts move with practiced care, checking leaves, touching soil, adjusting small supports that hold vines upright. A hand brushes along a branch to inspect it, and tiny droplets fall, glinting for a moment before disappearing into shadow. The droplets make no sound when they land. The garden absorbs them like it absorbs everything else. You pause at a low wall and rest your palm on it. The stone is cool, damp with night air. Beyond it, the city spreads below, warm lights flickering like fireflies trapped in brick. Above you, leaves form a canopy that breaks the sky into fragments, letting stars peek through in small clusters. You realize this place is both elevated and enclosed, high above the city, yet wrapped in green. It makes you feel oddly safe, as if you've climbed into a nest. As you continue upward along a gentle slope to the next terrace level, the air cools further. The breeze here is softer, filtered through leaves, carrying the faint scent of water. You hear it again, the trickle in the channels steady as a lullaby. You remember the courtyards well and the way water was treated like treasure. Here, that same reverence has been turned into architecture. Water becomes a staircase's companion, climbing beside you in silence. Your hosts guide you to a viewpoint where you can see the terrace levels cascading, one above another, each with its own beds, its own small trees, its own carefully balanced weight. The whole structure feels like a living mountain built from human patience. You imagine the labor, soil carried up, stones set, plants tended, water lifted day after day. It's impossible, and yet here it is, breathing. You stand in the cool green air and feel the city below, the river beyond, the ziggurat waiting in the distance. Babylon is doing something very specific to you right now. It is making your thoughts climb out of the noisy streets and into a place where they can cool down and slow down and become less sharp. You take a deeper breath, and the scent of damp leaves fills your chest. The climb has begun, not just up the terraces, but into the part of Babylon that knows how to cradle tired minds without even trying too hard. You don't stay a visitor for long. Babylon has a way of turning your wandering gaze into useful hands, not through pressure, but through invitation. The terrace path brings you to a working area where baskets are stacked neatly and tools are laid out in the same calm order you saw in the courtyard. Reeds, small blades, twine, shallow bowls for water, and clay pots waiting like empty lungs. Your hosts settle into their tasks with an ease that makes labor look like a form of rest. You find yourself kneeling beside a bed of vines, fingers sinking slightly into damp soil that holds the day's warmth in its core and the night's coolness on its surface. The soil is dark and rich, and it smells like patience. A bundle of twine is placed near you. A hand demonstrates, briefly, without fuss, loop, pull, secure. The vine is gently lifted and guided toward a support. There is no snapping, no harsh bending. Everything here is about persuasion. You copy the motion, and the vine settles where you place it, leaves trembling softly like a creature accepting comfort. Your fingers learn quickly. The twine bites slightly against your skin, then loosens as you tie it, You realize how soothing it is to do something small that has an obvious purpose. Tie the vine, support the growth. Turn the soil, help the roots breathe. Carry water, keep life moving. Your mind, which usually insists on complicated problems, is temporarily satisfied by simple ones. Nearby, fig leaves spread wide as palms, and the air beneath them is cooler and darker. You step into their shade and feel the temperature drop again, the way you felt it in the courtyard. Coolness stored in shadow, offered freely. Figs hang in the dim like soft weights, their skins deep and matte, their scent faintly sweet when you brush past. Your hosts show you a basin where cuttings rest in water, small lengths of plant stem, trimmed and waiting to be planted. They're handled like precious things, because they are. A cutting is not just a piece of plant, it's the promise of another plant, the continuation of green in a city made of brick. You lift one gently, noticing how the stem feels firm yet alive, and you press it into a prepared hole in the soil. Your fingers tuck earth around it, sealing it in like a secret. A watering jar appears beside you, its belly cool against your forearm. You tip it slowly, and water threads into the soil in a thin stream. The sound is almost nothing, just a soft, wet settling, the tiniest sigh as the earth drinks. You watch the dark patch spread outward and then stop, contained, because Babylon does not waste even in its gardens. The water is measured, directed, cherished. As you work, you learn without being told. You notice how channels carry water to specific beds first, prioritizing certain plants. You notice how stones are placed to guide runoff, how pots are arranged to catch stray drips. You notice how the terrace level is shaped so excess water doesn't pool and rot roots, but flows into a narrow trench that leads it onward. This is not nature doing whatever it wants. This is nature being hosted. The terrace feels like a city inside the city. People move through it with the same steady competence you saw in the market and courtyard. Some carry baskets of soil, careful not to spill. Some check the rope and pulley mechanisms that lift water, listening for changes in the creek that might mean a knot is loosening or a wooden piece needs oiling. Others trim leaves, removing the ones that yellow so the plant can redirect its strength. Every motion is quiet, deliberate, practiced. You pause at a low wall where a row of clay pots sits. Each pot is planted with herbs, sharp green leaves that smell of medicine and cooking. You brush one leaf between your fingers and the scent leaps up, clean and bright. It cuts through the garden's softer perfumes like a cool breeze through warm air. You think of the drying herbs in the courtyard and realize the terraces are part of the same system: food, medicine, ritual, comfort. Babylon's beauty is not separate from survival. It is survival arranged beautifully. A small tool is placed in your palm, wooden, smooth, shaped by use. You scrape gently at the soil's surface to break crust and let air in. The motion is repetitive, and repetition becomes a lullaby. Your mind starts to drift, not into sleep yet, but into that soft focus where thoughts stop arguing and simply exist. You notice your breathing matching the rhythm of your hands. Scrape, breathe. Tie, breathe. Pour, breathe. The garden holds you in a sequence so simple it feels like a spell. Above you, leaves shift and the stars peek through. The canopy breaks the sky into fragments, little windows of night. You catch a glimpse of a constellation and remember the ziggurat waiting somewhere beyond this green. The idea of a star library feels less abstract now. Here in the terraces, you can feel how closely Babylon watches patterns of water, of growth, of seasons. It would make sense that it also watches the sky with the same care. You move to another bed where vines climb along a trellis. The wood is worn smooth where hands have touched it over and over. You tighten a loose tie, and the vine settles closer to the support, leaves arranged to catch what little light remains. In the dim, the leaves look almost black, but when a lamp shifts nearby, they flash green for a moment, as if reminding you they are alive even when you can't see them clearly. A basket of compost sits near the bed, dark and crumbly. It smells earthy and slightly sweet, the scent of things that have broken down into usefulness. Your hosts sprinkle it lightly around the base of plants, not too much, never dumping. You do the same, letting the crumbs fall between your fingers. It's strangely satisfying to feed the soil, to participate in the cycle that keeps this impossible garden alive. You realize slowly that the terraces are not just for display. They are a demonstration of control, of water, of weight, of time. They show that Babylon can take the raw elements of earth and river and sun and turn them into a stable, maintained beauty. It's power, yes, but not the kind that shouts. It's the kind that repeats. As you work, you feel the city below fade further. Your body becomes tuned to leaf rustle and water trickle and the soft scrape of tool on soil. The market's sweetness feels like a distant dream now, though you can still summon the taste of dates if you try. The processional lions feel like a memory of steady motion. The courtyard well feels like a cool anchor in your chest. And you, somehow, feel less like a stranger. When the tasks ease, your hosts guide you to a shaded corner where a fig tree spreads its broad leaves overhead. Beneath it, a woven mat lies ready, and a small clay cup of water waits nearby, cool enough to make your fingertips shiver when you lift it. You drink slowly, tasting stone and night again, and you look out over the terrace edge. Below, Babylon's lamps flicker. Beyond, the river glints faintly. Above, stars gather with patient clarity. You've tied vines. You've planted cuttings. You've fed soil. You've watched water climb and flow with measured grace. These are small acts, but they feel meaningful, and in Babylon, meaningful things often start small, like a single wedge pressed into clay, like a single line repeated along a wall, like a single channel carrying water upward into green. The garden work tapers off the way a good song tapers. No sudden stop, just a gradual thinning until the last note hangs in the air, and you realize you've been listening with your whole body. Your hands are damp with soil and faintly scented with crushed leaves. Twine fibers cling to your fingertips. A trace of herb sharpness lingers near your nails. You could wash it away, but you don't yet. It feels like proof that you've been here, that Babylon didn't merely show you beauty, it let you hold a piece of it. Your hosts guide you along a path that rises again, not with steep steps this time, but with gentle ramps and short stair runs that feel designed for carrying baskets, jars, and tired people. The air grows cooler with every level, as if the city is slowly swapping its warmth for the sky's calm. As you climb, the terraces become quieter. The working areas with baskets and tools fade behind you. The pulley creaks and water channels still exist, but their sounds soften into background, like someone turning the volume down on the world. You pass beds of flowers that open more fully at night, pale blossoms that catch lamplight and appear to glow from within. Their scent is different from daytime flowers. It's heavier, slower, more intimate. It drifts into your lungs and makes your thoughts feel less sharp. You catch a thread of incense too, faint but distinct, rising from somewhere lower, carried up through the green. It's mixed with the smell of damp soil, and the two together create a perfume that feels ancient and oddly familiar, like comfort you can't quite name. Your body responds before your mind does. Your shoulders loosen. Your jaw unclenches. The muscles behind your eyes stop holding themselves so tightly. At the top of a terrace level, the path opens onto a roofed platform. Not a grand palace roof, not a place for spectacle, just a high, open space where the city's edges fall away and the sky becomes the main event. Low walls line the perimeter, and lamps are placed in niches so their flames can't be bullied by wind. The light here is minimal on purpose. Babylon understands that if you want to see stars, you don't flood the night with fire. You step onto the platform and feel the difference under your feet. Smoother brick, cooler now, holding less of the day's heat at this height. A breeze moves through, gentle and persistent, and it carries the scent of leaves and water from below. It also carries something else, faint smoke from far-off cooking fires, the last traces of market spice, the city's everyday life rising like a soft exhale. You walk to the low wall and rest your forearms on it. The brick is cool enough to make you sigh. Below, Babylon spreads out in layered darkness, lamps flickering in courtyards, along lanes, beside doorways. From up here, the city's lights look like a map of quiet intentions. Here is a home still awake. Here is a temple lamp kept steady. Here is a watch point. Here is a passage still being swept. The order you felt on the processional way exists everywhere, just in smaller forms. Beyond the city's immediate sprawl, you sense the Euphrates again. You can't see the whole ribbon of it from here, but you catch intermittent glints, small flashes of reflected lamplight or moonless sky. The river's presence is like a remembered heartbeat, steady and low. You think of the water you drank in the courtyard and the water you poured into soil, and you realize it's all the same story. The river becomes jar, becomes channel, becomes garden, becomes coolness in your chest. Babylon turns flow into calm. The stars above are clearer now. Without the market's bustle and the processional way's jewel blue dazzle, the sky takes center stage. Constellations sharpen. Planets hold their steadier shine. You can almost feel the sky's depth, the way it stretches beyond your ability to measure it. It makes you feel small, but in the best way. The way a child feels small when tucked into bed in a safe house, knowing the world is big but not threatening tonight. Your hosts settle nearby, not crowding you, simply occupying the space with quiet presence. Someone places a folded cloth on the brick for you to sit on, smoothing it with a palm as if smoothing your day. Someone else sets down a small clay cup, water again, because Babylon never forgets what keeps you steady. You sit, and your body relaxes into the coolness, your spine leaning slightly back against the wall. From this rooftop, you can see the ziggurat more clearly now. It rises beyond the nearer rooftops, a stepped shadow against the star field. It looks less like a building and more like a dark staircase carved out of night. Its presence is quiet but undeniable, the way a mountain is undeniable even when it's far away. You don't feel intimidated by it. You feel invited, like the city has been gently preparing you, step by step, so your mind won't rush the experience. You let your gaze drift between the ziggurat and the stars above it. The idea of a star library begins to feel inevitable. Of course, a city that measures water so carefully would also measure light. Of course, a city that repeats lines along a road with such intentional rhythm would also repeat wedge marks on clay to hold the sky's patterns. Babylon is obsessed with continuity. It doesn't want the world to blur. It wants to keep things stable enough to remember. The night perfumes thicken slightly as the air cools. Somewhere below, a flower releases a heavier wave of scent, sweet and faintly spicy. A leaf rubs against another leaf, and the sound is soft as brushing fabric. The water channels far below still trickle, and when the breeze shifts just right, you hear a tiny glimmer of it, like a hidden bell. You think sleepily about the lions, how calm they looked, always moving forward without urgency. You think about the market's date sweetness, still faint on your tongue if you search for it. You think about the courtyard tools, reeds, seals, damp clay held ready like a prepared memory. All of these images stack inside you, one on top of the other, like the ziggurat itself. Babylon is building something in you, a layered calm. The breeze touches your face again, and you close your eyes for a moment. When you open them, the sky feels closer, as if the stars leaned down while you blinked. Your breathing slows. Your eyelids grow heavier. You might even believe you could fall asleep right here on this rooftop, wrapped in plant-scented air and protected by walls that have held their ground against centuries. But your hosts don't let the moment end abruptly. They wait until you've absorbed the quiet, until your mind is soft enough to take the next step. Then, with the gentlest motion, they begin to move again, guiding you along the rooftop edge where the path dips slightly, leading away from the terrace heights and toward the deeper shadow of the ziggurat. You rise, feeling the cool bricks imprint in your palms, and you take one last look across Babylon's lamps and stars. The city below continues its calm routines, sweeping, tending, storing water, keeping lamps steady, while above, the sky holds its silent records. You step forward into the night, carrying the terrace's green coolness with you like a cloak, and the ziggurat's dark staircase waits ahead, patient and certain. You descend from the terrace heights in a slow, careful way, as if you're carrying something fragile inside you. Maybe you are. The rooftop quiet still clings to your ears. The leaf-scented coolness still lingers on your skin. Even the faint twine fibers on your fingertips feel like a soft reminder. You were useful here, you were held here, you were allowed to soften. The path angles downward through a series of sheltered passages that funnel the breeze and make it feel like the city is exhaling around you. Lamps guide the way, placed at intervals that keep shadow from swallowing your feet. You notice again how Babylon controls its darkness. It doesn't banish it, it shapes it, so it becomes comforting rather than threatening. As you move, the greenery thins. Leaves become fewer, then disappear. The air warms slightly as you leave the terrace microclimate, but it stays gentler than the streets below. Your hosts guide you through a lane where walls rise higher, and the sound of the city becomes a distant undercurrent instead of a presence. You can still sense life, pots clinking softly, water being poured, broom brush shush, but it's muffled, as if the city is deliberately quieting itself for what you're about to approach. Then you feel it, the ziggurat's shadow. It arrives before the structure fully reveals itself, a subtle pressure in the air, a deepening of darkness that seems to sit heavier on your shoulders. Not in a frightening way. More like stepping near a cliff edge and suddenly becoming aware of gravity. The space around you changes from intimate lanes to wider ground, and your eyes instinctively lift. The ziggurat rises ahead, stepped and massive, its edges catching just enough lamplight to outline its shape against the star field. It looks less like a building made by humans and more like a piece of the earth stacked upward on purpose. The brickwork holds the day's heat inside it, but its outer face has cooled enough that the air near it feels like night stone, steady, calm, unmoving. You begin the approach along a broad way that feels cleaned and prepared. The ground is smoother, and your footsteps make a quiet, satisfying sound, soft thuds that echo faintly and then vanish. The space is open enough that the sky feels wider above you, and the stars seem to watch with more clarity. You realize, with a sleepy sort of awe, that Babylon's architecture is not just about impressing humans. It's also about negotiating with the heavens. The city builds upward as if trying to meet the sky halfway. As you walk, you notice the scale more intimately. The bricks here are larger, or perhaps your sense of proportion has changed. The steps of the ziggurat are broad and deep, meant for processions, for steady climbs, for bodies moving in rhythm. The corners are sharp, the lines deliberate. This is structure built to last, to resist weather, to resist time, to resist the casual chaos of daily life. Your hosts keep close but quiet. Their presence steadies you without crowding you. One carries a small lamp that throws light forward, making the brick surface ahead glow in a muted amber. Another holds a cloth bundle, perhaps tools, perhaps offerings, perhaps something as simple as extra oil for the lamps. The bundle swings gently with each step, and the motion is hypnotic, like watching a pendulum slow your thoughts. You reach the base of the ziggurat, and the air here is cooler than expected. The structure's mass blocks wind and creates pockets of stillness. In that stillness, you hear small things, a faint scrape of sand shifting near the base, the whisper of fabric against skin, the quiet creak of a lamp hook. Your own breathing feels louder. You become aware of your heartbeat, steady and unimpressed by monuments, yet quietly respectful. The first steps upward are not steep, but they are significant. You place your foot on the brick, and the surface feels firm, slightly rough, textured by time. It's not the smooth coolness of terrace walls. It's the honest grit of clay fired hard and left to endure. The step holds your weight without complaint. You climb another, then another. The rhythm begins. Step. Breathe. Step. Breathe. Your mind tries to drift, but the climb keeps it gently engaged. The ziggurat demands attention in the simplest way. It requires your body to participate. You can't float through this part. You have to place your feet and keep going. But the demand isn't harsh. It's like walking slowly up a hill under a calm sky, knowing you'll get there when you get there. As you ascend, the city's lights shift below. You glance over your shoulder, and Babylon looks different from this angle. The lamps form patterns you didn't notice from the terraces, clusters around courtyards, lines along streets, scattered points near the river. The processional way's jewel blue glow is not visible from here, but you can sense its direction, as if the lions are still guiding you, their calm forward motion now translated into your steady climb. Above you, the stars feel closer. Not physically, of course, but emotionally, as if the distance is less intimidating when you're moving toward it. The sky seems deeper, the constellations more present. You think of the terrace water channels, climbing beside you without struggle. You think of the well in the courtyard, patient and dark. You think of the clay tablets in the market, wedge marks pressed with care. Babylon's theme repeats: lift what matters, store what matters, keep it steady. You reach a landing where the climb pauses, and the ziggurat steps widen into a platform. Here, the wind returns, moving across your face with a cooler touch. It smells faintly of dust and distant smoke, but also of something clean, night air unbroken by leaves. The lamps on this level are fewer, placed to guide rather than to illuminate fully. The shadows are deeper, but they feel intentional, not threatening. They make the light more precious. Your hosts guide you along the platform's edge. You pass low walls and niches carved into the brick. Some niches hold small lamps, their flames protected by clay covers. Others hold objects wrapped in cloth, bundles that suggest tools or tablets, things that require care. You notice the same pattern again. Babylon prepares. Babylon stores. Babylon keeps important things from the weather, from accidents, from forgetfulness. The next descent begins, and you continue, your legs moving with steady, sleepy determination. The ziggurat's mast blocks the city's sound almost completely now. The market, the sweeping, the water pouring, all of it is far below, muted into near silence. Up here, there is mostly wind, breath, and the soft scuff of your feet on brick. As you climb, your thoughts become simpler, like your tasks in the garden. Place foot. Lift body. Breathe. The simplicity is a gift. It frees your mind from spinning. It gives you a straight path through the night. Near the top of the visible steps, the space feels different again, more enclosed, more sacred, as if the ziggurat's upper levels are holding their breath. The lamps are minimal now, and the sky above becomes the main light source. Stars spill into the darkness, and the outlines of the structure become a silhouette against the universe. You reach another landing and pause. Your palms rest on cool brick. Your breath fogs faintly in the cooler air. You look up, and the last stretch of steps leads into deeper shadow, a place where you can sense something beyond mere architecture. A place that feels like a threshold between earth and sky. You don't rush. You let your heartbeat settle. You let the wind brush your face. You let the ziggurat's shadow hold you for a moment, like a giant, patient hand. Then you take the next step upward, and Babylon's star-bound heart draws nearer. The final steps feel quieter not because the bricks are softer, but because you have become softer. Your feet land with less insistence, your breath moves with less urgency, and your thoughts stop trying to narrate everything at once. The ziggurat does what it was built to do. It slows you until you can meet the sky without flinching. At the upper level, the path bends and the wind thins. The structure shields you from the open air, and a corridor appears, narrower, darker, with lamps set deep into niches so their flames can survive without trembling. Their light is not bright. It is intimate, meant for eyes that are willing to adjust. You step inside, and the world becomes lamp glow and brick shadow. The air changes again. It smells of dry clay, warmed oil, and faint dust that has settled into corners over many seasons. It's not the harsh dust of neglect. It's the fine dust of stored time, the kind that gathers where people are careful and things are left undisturbed on purpose. You feel it in your nostrils and in the back of your throat, like the taste of old paper in a library, except here the library is earth. Your hosts move ahead, their lamps held low, their steps practiced. The corridor opens into a chamber that feels larger than it looks at first, because the ceiling rises and the walls are lined with shelves built into brick. The shelves hold clay tablets stacked in careful rows. Some are flat, some slightly curved, some thick, some thin. Each one has the matte, pale brown look of fired earth, and each one is marked with wedge-shaped impressions that catch lamplight like tiny shadows. You stop at the threshold, not because anyone tells you to, but because the room itself asks for a pause. It feels like entering a place where voices should naturally lower, even though there are no voices tonight, only breath and the faint, steady crackle of lamps. The tablets are arranged with quiet logic. Bundles are wrapped in cloth, tied with twine, labeled with small tags of clay. Loose tablets sit in shallow trays. A few are propped upright, as if recently used, their wedge marks crisp and fresh-looking. Your host gestured toward them, inviting you to look closely. You step nearer and let your eyes travel over the impressions. The cuneiform wedges are small but decisive, tiny presses that once required a hand to be steady and a mind to be patient. You think of the vine ties you made on the terraces, loop, pull, secure. The same patience lives here, just in different material. The same insistence on continuity. A low table stands in the center of the chamber. On it sits a tray of damp clay under a cloth, a bowl of water, and a cluster of reed styluses cut to different angles. The sight makes something in you relax, because you recognize the setup from the courtyard shelf. Tools prepared. Materials kept ready. Babylon's calm made practical. Your hosts lift the cloth slightly and the damp clay scent rises, earthy, cool, alive. It feels strange to smell, alive, inside a room that holds so many fired, hardened records. But that's the point, you realize. The library isn't just storage, it's ongoing. The sky keeps moving. The seasons keep shifting. The city keeps writing. A reed stylus is placed in your hand. It's lighter than you expect, smooth where fingers have held it before, with a cut tip that feels precise. You hold it above the clay and hesitate, because you don't want to ruin anything. Your hosts respond by arranging a small slab of clay in front of you, separate from the rest. A safe place to begin. The gesture is gentle, almost parental, like placing a child's first drawing paper on the table and saying, without words, it's okay to try. You press the stylus into the clay. The sound is soft, like a tiny crunch followed by silence. The wedge mark appears, clean and sharp, a little shadowed triangle with a tail. You lift the stylus and press again. Another wedge. The clay accepts each mark without resistance. It holds what you give it. It does not argue with your clumsy angles. It simply records. You make a few more impressions, feeling how the pressure changes the shape. You notice how the clay's surface dampness makes the mark edges slightly raised. Your fingertips begin to understand the language of force and angle. It's oddly satisfying, like drawing with your body instead of your eyes. Your hosts guide your hand subtly, not by gripping you, but by placing another stylus nearby with a slightly different cut, letting you compare. You switch and press. The wedge looks different, broader, deeper. You realize that even without knowing the full script, you can feel the system. Tools create consistent marks. Consistent marks create readable patterns. Readable patterns create shared memory. On a nearby shelf, a tablet sits open in a shallow tray with a small stone weight holding it in place. Your hosts bring it closer to the lamp and tilt it so the marks catch light. You see lines arranged in orderly rows. Some sections are repeated, almost like a refrain. Others break the pattern with larger spacing, perhaps indicating a new topic. The tablet looks less like a note and more like a map. A subtle chill runs down your spine, not from fear, but from the quiet thrill of realizing what this room represents. Babylon is not just watching the sky because it's pretty. It is watching the sky because it needs to know. Flood seasons, planting times, festivals, omens, life depends on patterns. The city's beauty is built on predictability, and predictability is built on observation. You move to another shelf where tablets are grouped differently. Some are marked with simple diagrams, lines and dots, curved shapes that suggest paths. Your hosts point gently, and you lean in, letting the lamplight reveal the faint geometry. You can imagine them tracing the motion of a bright star, marking where it rises, where it sets, how it shifts across seasons. The clay turns the sky's movement into something your hands can hold. Your breathing slows even further. The chamber's quiet feels thick, protective. The outside wind is gone. The city's noises are gone. There is only lamp glow and earth and patient knowledge. The scent of oil from the lamps is steady, warm, comforting. It reminds you of the market's brazier glow, of the terrace lamps tucked into niches, of the courtyard lamps protected from drafts. Babylon keeps light the way it keeps water, sheltered, measured, useful. You sit at the low table again and press another wedge into clay. The act feels like a tiny anchor keeping you present. Your host set a small bowl of water near your elbow, and you dip your fingertips, smoothing a mistake you made in the clay's edge. The water cools your skin, and you remember the well. You remember the terrace's channels. You remember the river. Water correcting clay. Clay recording sky. Sky guiding water. The city's systems loop together like vines on a trellis. On the far wall, an opening leads to another chamber, darker, cooler, with an upward draft that suggests a viewpoint beyond. Your hosts gesture toward it, and you feel a gentle pull. The library is not the end. It is the preparation. Knowledge stored here is meant to be used under the stars, not only admired under lamps. Before you leave, you glance back at the shelves. The tablets sit in rows like quiet sleeping creatures, each holding a piece of the sky's story. You feel a new kind of respect, not loud, not performative, just steady. These are not old things. They are working tools for understanding a world that keeps moving. You carry the reed stylus in your hand as you follow your host toward the darker opening, and the lamp glow behind you fades into a softer halo. The Star Library has welcomed you, and now it gently nudges you onward, toward the place where the clay's marks meet the actual light of the night. You step from the lamp-warmed chamber into a passage where darkness feels cleaner, thinner, almost airy. The Star Library's oil scent lingers behind you, but ahead the air carries more night, cooler, less touched by smoke, with a faint mineral dryness that makes each breath feel crisp. Your hosts keep their lamp low, but the flame is mostly a courtesy now. The corridor tilts upward, and the sky begins to leak in. At the end of the passage, the space opens. You emerge onto a high platform where the ziggurat gives you what it has been promising all along, an uncluttered meeting with the stars. The city lights below are scattered and small. The terrace's greenery is a darker patchwork in the distance. The Euphrates becomes a faint ribbon of shadow with occasional glints. Up here, Babylon looks less like a maze and more like a living diagram. Courtyards, roads, water lines, all arranged beneath the night like a thought made visible. The sky dominates. Without the river's shimmering distraction, and without the terrace canopy breaking it into fragments, the star field feels wide and steady. The constellations are not just points. They are patterns your eyes can settle into. You take a slow breath, and the air feels as if it's been washed. Your mind, which has been busy all day making noise, suddenly runs out of things to argue about. Your hosts guide you to the platform's edge where low walls provide a sense of safety. Lamps are kept minimal, tucked into niches, their flames shaded so they don't steal your night vision. A small arrangement of tools sits nearby, a shallow bowl of water to keep clay from drying too quickly, a reed stylus, and a tablet already prepared, its surface smooth and ready for marks. The sight makes you smile, sleepily. Babylon brings its earth habits into the sky. It doesn't separate sacred and practical. It blends them. You sit or kneel, your body chooses the posture that feels most stable, and you let your gaze rise. The brightest points of light hold their positions with quiet confidence. Some flicker slightly, like distant fires. Others shine steadier, with a firmness that makes you suspect they are different in nature. Your hosts gesture toward one of these steadier lights, then trace a slow arc with their hand across the sky, indicating a path. Not a random swipe. A deliberate curve. You follow the gesture and notice, as if for the first time, that some lights don't belong to the fixed pattern. They wander. They shift relative to the background. Planets, though you don't need the name to feel the difference. Babylon knows the difference the way it knows water from oil. The watchers here track what moves. A tablet is placed before you. Your host's fingers hover above it for a moment, then press a few marks, small wedges arranged in a neat cluster. There is no speech, but the action is clear. This is how observation becomes record. They point to the sky again, then back to the tablet. Look. Mark. Repeat. The same calm logic as tying vines or pouring water. You take the reed stylus and press a wedge into the clay beside their marks. Your hand feels steadier than it did in the library chamber, perhaps because the sky has made you slower. You press another wedge. Another. You are not writing poetry. You are participating in measurement. The act is strangely intimate, your fingertips turning distant light into shaped earth. You look up again. The constellations begin to organize themselves. Lines appear in your mind, imagined but useful. Your hosts guide your attention to a cluster that forms a familiar shape, then to another that rises at a different angle. They indicate the horizon line where stars emerge and sink. The motion of their hands is unhurried, like someone demonstrating a breathing exercise. You realize this is how the watchers teach, not by overwhelming you with facts, but by letting your eyes learn patterns slowly, as if learning to recognize faces. The wind brushes your cheeks, cool and consistent. It carries a faint scent of dust, but it's cleaner dust than below, as if it has traveled farther and had more time to settle. The low wall behind you holds the heat of the day faintly, just enough that your back feels supported. You exist in a perfect balance, cool air in front of you, warm brick behind you, and the sky above acting like an enormous ceiling that never closes in. You think briefly of the You probably won't survive this. Reality check from earlier, and you feel a small, sleepy amusement. It wasn't about danger. It was about the obvious truth that you cannot hold all of this in your waking attention. The sky's depth will eventually blur your thoughts into softness. Babylon knew that. It built a staircase to the stars and then arranged the stars to be gently hypnotic. You came here thinking you'd stay alert. The universe is politely disagreeing. Your hosts direct your attention toward the east, where the sky is slightly darker, and you notice the subtle difference between new stars rising and old stars sinking. The horizon isn't sharp. It's softened by distance, by haze, by the city's faint glow. But you can still sense the turning. Time is moving, silently, and Babylon is watching it with the same patience it uses to lift water to terraces. A small bowl of water is nudged closer to you. You dip your fingertips and smooth the clay edge, keeping the tablet workable. Again the loop. Water helps clay. Clay holds sky. The repetition is comforting, like a refrain. You feel your shoulders lower further, your neck loosen, your eyes become both wider and calmer. Your hosts gesture toward a point of light that sits low in the sky, brighter than most. They trace a line down toward the horizon, then back up, indicating the change of position over time. You understand the implication. This light, this wanderer, matters for calendars, for seasons, for predictions. They press a mark into clay, then another, spacing them slightly, like ticks on a measuring stick. You add your own marks beside theirs, careful to keep the spacing consistent. Your stylus presses wedges that hold the lamp's faint glow on their ridges. It is not glamorous work. It is quiet and precise. It feels, in an unexpected way, like care. You look back at the city below. The lamps and courtyards flicker. The processional way is not visible from here, but you can imagine the lions lined in blue, still holding their calm forward motion. The terraces are a darker mass now, their scents only a memory on your skin. You think of the figs, the herbs, the vines, the soil you fed. All of it depends on timing, on knowing when waters rise, on knowing when seasons shift, on having enough predictability to plan and enough humility to adapt. Babylon's watchers hold that responsibility lightly, not because it's small, but because they've learned the trick of steady repetition. Watch. Mark. Watch again. Let the sky teach you slowly. Let your ego become quiet enough to listen. The longer you sit, the more the sky becomes a blanket. Not because it hides you, but because it covers you with scale. Your worries, whatever they were earlier, shrink down into manageable shapes. They become small enough to fit into a clay tablet, small enough to be pressed into a wedge and stored. You feel yourself becoming part of the city's calm machinery, another set of hands recording the world so others can rest inside it. Eventually, your hosts guide you back toward the platform's center where the prepared tablets are collected. You place your stylus down gently, like putting a sleeping creature back into its nest. You glance once more at the brightest points of light, now familiar enough that your eyes greet them like old acquaintances. You follow your host toward the darker passage that leads back into the ziggurat. The lampglow waits below, the shelves of tablets waiting too, and you carry a new sense of steady time inside you, the kind that makes your breathing slow and your thoughts settle, as if your mind has learned to move the way stars move, patiently, inevitably, and without panic. You return from the Skywatch platform with the night still stretched wide inside your chest. The corridor down feels warmer now, not because the bricks changed, but because your body has adjusted to the wind's coolness. The lamp niches appear again, their flames steady and sheltered, and the oil scent of the Star Library grows stronger with each step, like the familiar smell of a room where you once felt safe. When you re-enter the library chamber, the shelves are exactly where you left them, rows of clay tablets stacked with careful logic, cloth bundles tied neatly with twine, tags of clay hanging like quiet labels. The low table still holds its tools, reed styluses, a bowl of water, a cloth covering damp clay. The order is soothing. Your mind expects it to remain unchanged, because Babylon has been teaching you consistency all night. And yet something is slightly off. You feel it first as a tiny tightening behind your ribs, a subtle shift in the air. The lamps seem to burn a touch brighter, not from more flame, but from more attention. Your hosts move with the same quiet competence as before, but their hands hover longer over certain shelves, their gestures more precise, their stillness more concentrated. It isn't anxiety. It's focus. The calm has not broken, it has narrowed. You step closer to the central table and notice an empty space in a shallow tray. The tray looks as if it should hold a tablet propped at an angle, one recently used, one meant to be returned to its shelf after being referenced. The tray's edges are dusted with faint clay crumbs, and the marks of where something rested are visible in the fine dust. A rectangle, cleanly outlined, now vacant. Your hosts tilt a lamp and the light rakes across the tray, confirming what your eyes already suspected. Something that belongs here is not here. They guide you toward a particular shelf, one that holds tablets with diagrams and measured markings, the kind used for skywatching, the kind that translate moving lights into structured records. A section of that shelf has a gap, too. A neat space between two tablets where another should fit. The surrounding tablets are undisturbed, their edges aligned. The cloth bundles nearby remain tied. Nothing looks rummaged through. That makes the absence feel sharper, like a tooth missing from an otherwise perfect row. The missing tablet is not just a tablet. You can feel that in the way the room's energy has changed. Babylon is a city that treats water like treasure and records like backbone. A missing record here is like a missing beam in a ceiling. The structure might still stand, but everyone notices the weakness. Your hosts don't dramatize it. There is no frantic movement, no emotional display. Instead, they do what Babylon always does. They prepare to restore order. They bring you back to the low table and uncover the damp clay. A fresh slab is set down, and a reed stylus is placed near your hand. The gesture tells you what kind of help they want from you. Not force, not heroics, but careful attention. If the missing tablet can't be found immediately, it can at least be reconstructed, or the search can be recorded so patterns aren't lost. Babylon is allergic to unrecorded chaos. But first, the search. Your hosts move through the room in slow, systematic steps. A lamp is lifted to illuminate shelf edges. Fingers hover over tags, reading their shapes by touch and memory. Cloth bundles are checked not by tearing them open, but by feeling their weight, confirming what they contain. Their method is almost meditative, like counting breaths, like tracing constellations. You follow their rhythm and begin to notice details. The floor near the central table holds faint scuffs, soft arcs in the dust where sandals turned. The marks aren't obvious, but under the lamp's angled light, they appear like pale brush strokes. You remember the market's swept lanes and the courtyard's reed broom shush. Dust here is not allowed to pile up, it is regularly disturbed. That means any unusual mark can tell a story. You kneel and examine the dust near the empty tray. There, among the fine grains, you see a small, darker smudge, damp clay perhaps, or a faint wetness from a fingertip that touched the tablet's edge. The smudge is tiny, but it feels like a whisper pointing you somewhere. Your hosts notice you noticing. They tilt the lamp closer, letting the light reveal more. Near the smudge, there is a faint imprint, like the edge of something brushed the floor. Not a clear rectangle, not a full outline, just a suggestion of contact. A tablet is heavy enough to leave a trace if it is lowered awkwardly, if it slips, if someone sets it down briefly before lifting it again. The idea doesn't alarm you. It steadies you. It makes the problem feel solvable, because it means the missing thing had a path. You stand slowly and let your eyes trace the room. The shelves are built into the walls, the central table sits in the open, and the corridor leads out. If the tablet left the chamber, it would have to pass through that corridor. If it was set down elsewhere in the ziggurat, it might have been carried to another room, perhaps to the skywatch platform, perhaps to a niche where drafts are lower, perhaps to a place where lamp glow is better for reading fine marks. But the skywatch platform's tools are accounted for. You remember placing your stylus down. You remember the prepared tablets being collected. You don't recall seeing a single tablet being held apart, like a special one that needed extra care. Still, memory can be slippery, especially under stars. Your hosts guide you toward a small side chamber off the main library room. It's cooler, darker, used for storage. Inside, stacks of tablets sit in deeper shadow, and cloth bundles are arranged on low shelves. The air smells drier here, the oil scent faint. A lamp is brought in, and the light reveals the same neat order, nothing toppled, nothing disturbed. The missing tablet isn't here. You return to the main chamber and feel the problem settle into your hands like the vine twine did earlier. Not heavy, just present. You can sense that this tablet is used for something specific, perhaps a crucial set of star positions, perhaps a seasonal marker, perhaps a record that keeps the calendar honest. Without it, watchers might still observe the sky, but they lose a thread that connects tonight's patterns to last season's, a thread that allows prediction instead of mere observation. Babylon loves threads. Water threads and channels. Vine threads tied to supports. Record threads pressed into clay. A missing tablet is a broken thread. Your hosts do not allow broken threads to remain broken. They begin to move through the ziggurat's corridor system with purposeful quiet, and they bring you with them. One lamp leads. Another hand lightly touches a wall niche, checking for objects. The search expands beyond the library chamber, but it stays methodical. You step carefully, watching where dust has been disturbed, where a lamp might have been moved, where a cloth might have brushed against brick. As you approach the corridor that leads outward, toward the terraces and the city beyond, you notice something that makes your attention sharpen, a tiny fleck of clay stuck to the edge of a brick at knee height. It's fresh-looking, darker than the surrounding brick, as if a damp tablet brushed there. Your hosts tilt the lamp, and the fleck glows slightly in the warm light. It isn't proof. It is a hint. And in Babylon, hints are treated with respect. You follow the line of the corridor, eyes scanning for more flecks, more smudges, more scuffs and dust. You feel the cities come around you, not shattered, but focused into a narrow beam. The missing tablet has become the night's small problem, and you are now part of the city's gentle machinery of repair. You step forward, lamp glow leading your gaze, and the search begins in earnest, quiet as a whisper, steady as a river, and patient as stars. You move out of the library chamber and into the corridor again, following the lamp glow the way you followed the processional lions, one steady step after another. The tiny clay fleck on the brick stays in your mind like a star you've just learned to recognize, small, but now impossible to ignore. Your hosts angle their lamps low. The ziggurat's brick shows smoothed edges and old patches. Dust gathers in corners and thins along the line of travel. At the next bend, you find a smear on the brick at hip height, darker than the surrounding surface, as if damp clay brushed it and moved on. The lamp reveals a second detail, a frayed thread snagged in a mortar line, pale and fibrous. Twine. Not the tidy coil from the terrace workstation, but a tired strand that sheds when a bundle is tied and retied. You pinch it gently. It carries a faint scent of damp soil. The clue doesn't shout, it simply points. The stare-down waits nearby. If the missing tablet traveled with soil-scented twine and damp clay, it likely passed through places that hold moisture, courtyards, terraces, water channels. You descend. Lamp niches drift past like small, steady hearts. The air warms as you drop, bringing back oil smoke, brick dust, and a faint trace of date sweetness. At a landing, your hosts sweep the lamp across the ground. Dust shows a subtle arc, a turning mark, like someone pivoted while carrying something careful. Beside it lies a tiny crescent of clay crumb, darker than the floor dust. You don't pick it up. You let your eyes remember it. Lower still, the corridor opens toward the outside. Night air meets you again, cooler and freer, and the city's murmur returns as a soft undercurrent. Your hosts check wall niches and corners, the little pauses where a careful person might set something down, then lift it again without thinking. Near one niche, you notice an oval smudge on the brick, slightly glossy. Your mind returns to the market, oil from hands, date sugar, that sticky sheen that clings longer than it should. If someone handled food and then handled the tablet, Babylon would have signed the route in sweetness. You follow the passage into a lane. The ground is swept, but dust still gathers along the edges. You look for disturbances, a dragged line, a heel scuff, a patch of bare brick where dust has been wiped away. You find a clean streak near a corner where the lane narrows, as if a flat object brushed the surface while being shifted from one hand to another. Next to it rests a single reed fiber, pale and stiff, the sort used in brooms and mats. It's tiny, but tonight you trust tiny things. The reed pulls you back to the courtyard's soft shush of sweeping, order maintained without noise. It suggests a mat, a basket, a threshold, somewhere a bundle might have been rested, even briefly. Your hosts tilt the lamp forward, and you follow the lane's edge the way you might follow a thin channel of water. The air begins to smell greener as you move on. You are drifting toward the terraces again, toward the place where twine naturally smells of soil and where water naturally leaves traces. Your pace stays slow. No one runs. Babylon solves problems by looking, then looking again. The route schemes the edge of late work, a small market cluster closing quietly, baskets stacked near a doorway. One basket holds a strip of cloth tucked into its weave, hanging loose. The cloth matches what you saw wrapping tablet bundles in the library. Practical, protective. Your hosts tilt the lamp and simply look. The cloth's edge shows faint damp marks, as if it recently touched something cool and earthen. Nearby, a patch of ground is darker than the rest, lightly stained, as if a few drops fell and then evaporated. It nudges your memory of the water bowl beside damp clay, of fingertips smoothing tablet edges so records stay readable. Your hosts guide you away from the doorway and into a passage that climbs. The air grows greener with each step, familiar now, toward the terrace's cool canopy. Scents layer again, damp soil, crushed leaves, herb sharpness, and a faint sweetness of figs hiding in shadow. At the terrace boundary, another clue waits with patient stillness. Along a low wall where vines spill over, a thin smear of clay darkens the stone, partial and angled, as if a tablet edge brushed it while someone leaned in to adjust a tie or set a bundle down. Beneath the smear, caught in a crack, sits a single bright grain of blue glaze, like a tiny piece of night sky trapped in brick. Blue like the processional way. Blue like the lion's enamel. Somehow, the missing tablet has crossed paths with that ceremonial road, or with someone who carries its dust and glaze on their hands and cloth. The city's threads are knotting together. Your hosts lead you along the terrace path toward denser plantings, where shadows deepen and roots thicken beneath stone. Water channels whisper nearby, steady as breathing. The air cools your cheeks. The search narrows, not into panic, but into certainty. Somewhere ahead, beneath fig shade and vine drape, the terrace's root paths wait, cool, hidden, and perfectly capable of holding a clay secret for a little while longer. You follow the terrace path deeper into greenery, and the night turns cool and damp, like softened cloth laid over warm brick. Lampglow breaks into gentle patches across leaves. Beneath it runs a steady thread of water, trickling nearby, patient enough to guide you. Your hosts keep their lamps low, searching the way Babylon does everything, slowly, in order, with respect for small clues. You let your gaze skim along ledges, roots, and stone seams, watching for the slightest mismatch in dust. A fig tree spreads broad leaves overhead, making a pocket of still air. Your hosts gesture toward a low stone ledge bordering a vine bed. The ledge carries a thin layer of dust, except for one clean rectangle, like a place where something flat was set down and lifted again. You lean closer. Under the angled lamp, faint dark smears appear along the ledge's edge, damp clay brushed against stone. In a crease where ledge meets wall, a few tiny grains of blue glaze sit like a quiet reminder of the lion-lined avenue and its impossible color. Your eyes drop to the base of the wall. A thick root snakes into a small cluster of stones arranged to channel water away. One stone sits slightly wrong, tilted, a fraction out of alignment, as if moved and returned by hands that were careful, but tired. No one rushes. A lamp comes closer. Fingers hover, then touch the stone lightly. It shifts. You kneel, the cool stone pressing through your clothes, and slide your fingers into the gap behind the tilted rock. The space is cooler and faintly damp with root moisture. Your fingertips meet something hard and smooth. You pull gently, and a small wrapped bundle slips out of the shadow. Cloth. twine. Weight that feels like fired earth. Relief arrives quietly, like an exhale you didn't know you were saving. You cradle the bundle close, because even a sturdy clay tablet deserves gentle hands. Your hosts steady the lamp. You untie the knot slowly, loop, pull, release, your fingers remembering the vine ties from earlier. The cloth opens, and the tablet catches the lamp glow. Its surface is matte and firm, its wedge marks crisp, arranged in rows and measured clusters. This is a working sky record, something that links tonight's wandering lights to earlier seasons, the thread that keeps a calendar from drifting. On one corner, a small sticky smear darkens the edge. You bring it close and catch the faint scent of the market, date sweetness, caramel soft. You can almost picture the ordinary moment, someone pausing under fig shade with hands still sweet, setting the tablet on the ledge to free a palm for twine, nudging a stone aside to check a runoff channel, then being pulled away by the next small task. A bundle placed, just for a second, becomes a bundle forgotten, not from malice, but from the gentle tyranny of routine. Your hosts produce a small cloth and a bowl of water. You dampen the cloth and wipe only the tablet's border, where hands grip, keeping clear of the wedge marks. The sweetness loosens and lifts away. Water restores order again, the same way it cooled your hands in the courtyard. You let the edge dry for a few slow breaths. Leaves whisper overhead. The water channel keeps its steady trickle. Your hosts rewrap the tablet in a dry fold of cloth, then tie the twine snug, protective but not tight enough to press against edges. Now the job is simple. Return the thread to its place. You rise and follow the terrace path back, carrying the bundle close to your chest. The fig canopy recedes. As you pass a vine trellis, you notice a fresh tie and a slightly shifted support, tiny evidence of the same hands that must have paused here. The air warms slightly as you near the ziggurat's corridors, and the oil lamp scent returns like a familiar room. Inside the Star Library chamber, the shelves wait in patient rows. The empty gap on the diagram shelf still sits there, sharp in its neatness. A lamp is tilted toward it. You loosen the twine just enough, slide the tablet free without scraping its edges, and lift it with both hands. You guide it into the gap. It fits perfectly, as if the shelf has been holding its breath. The room changes immediately, though nothing dramatic happens. The lamps seem gentler. The air feels less tight. The library returns to continuity, the quiet confidence of a system restored. Your hosts press a small clay tag into place, confirming the order. Then they gesture toward the central table where damp clay waits under cloth. Babylon doesn't just fix problems, it records the fixing. You press a few deliberate wedges into the fresh clay, simple marks that stand for found, returned, restored. You rinse your fingertips in the water bowl and feel the coolness settle your pulse again. When you look back at the shelves, the tablets sit in their rows like quiet sleepers, each holding a piece of sky. The tools rest ready. The lamp niches guard their flames from drafts. Babylon has taken a wobble and turned it into order, the way it always does. You breathe out slowly, and the night inside the ziggurat feels steady again, as if the stars outside have resumed their dependable paths without needing to be asked. When the missing tablet slides back into its shelf gap, Babylon doesn't throw confetti. It does something more Babylon-like. It releases tension so quietly you almost miss it. The room's order feels complete again, and that completeness spreads outward, as if the city itself is a set of connected channels, one restored thread letting calm flow everywhere. Your hosts guide you out of the library chamber and down through the ziggurat's corridors. Lamps burn in their niches, steady and small, and the air warms as you descend. Each step takes you farther from dust-scented clay and closer to the city's everyday life. Cooking smoke, warm brick, faint spice. The night outside meets you like a soft hand. You expect quiet lanes, perhaps the sleepy closing of markets. Instead, you feel a gentle brightening in the air, more lamps, more moving light, a slightly fuller hum beneath the city's hush. Babylon is never loud for no reason, but tonight it carries a mild shimmer, the way a river carries moonlight without trying. You follow the route toward the processional way, and the blue appears again ahead, deep and saturated even under night. The glazed bricks catch lamplight and turn it into something unreal. Blue that looks like concentrated sky. Blue that makes your eyes relax as if they've been waiting to return to it. The lions reappear along the walls, and you feel an immediate sense of familiarity. Their repeating forms steady you. Their forward stride reminds you of your own steady steps up the ziggurat. Their calm eyes remind you of the watcher's calm hands. You walk between them as if you have walked here your whole life, or at least as if you've spent a whole night learning the city's pace. Lamplight is richer now. Small flames line the avenue in a deliberate pattern, and the glow moves as people pass, shifting shadows across the lions' bodies. The enamel surfaces shimmer. The reliefs seem to breathe as the light flickers, lions stepping forward and forward and forward, never hurried, never stopping. You notice offerings of small beauty placed along the way, a cluster of flowers in a shallow bowl, a reed mat rolled and leaned carefully against the wall, a string of dried herbs hung near a doorway. Nothing extravagant, just the city's quiet way of saying, order has been restored, and we can afford to be gentle again. Your hosts guide you along the avenue as if taking you on a slow parade, but the parade is made of soft details rather than noise. People move in small groups. Lamps are adjusted. Water is poured into basins at thresholds so hands can be washed before touching food, clay, or sacred objects. The same system of care repeats even here, even in celebration, water, light, routine. The scent of dates returns, drifting from a stall that has chosen to stay open a little longer. It's comforting now, not hungry making. You catch the smell of warm bread too, and the faint richness of oil. A brazier glows somewhere, and the sound of fat hitting heat is a soft hiss that blends into the night like white noise. As you pass, a small piece of date sweetness is offered again, pressed flat, wrapped in leaf. You take it, and the sticky caramel taste blooms on your tongue. It's the same flavor you carried earlier, but now it feels like a callback the city is making on purpose, like Babylon is saying, remember the start of your night? Here it is again, softer, safer, sweeter. You walk on, chewing slowly, letting the sweetness dissolve. The lions flank you, their forms repeating like a lullaby. The blue glaze reflects moving lamplight, and the reflections ripple across the wall like water, echoing the Euphrates shimmer. You realize, with a sleepy smile, that Babylon has been weaving water imagery into everything: river light, glazed light, lamp light in niches, water channels and terraces. It's all the same comfort expressed in different materials. At a widened stretch of the processional way, the city's mild celebration gathers. Lamps cluster here, making a brighter pool of light. People stand near the walls, calm, attentive. A few carry small bundles, cloth-wrapped, tied with twine, some likely tablets, some likely offerings, some perhaps simply goods being transported with care. The sight makes you think of the missing tablet again, not as a worry, but as a completed story. You remember the fig root gap, the clean rectangle on stone, the faint date smear. You remember returning the tablet to its place. You feel the satisfaction of repair settle deeper in your chest. The air is cooler on the avenue than in the lanes, because the space is open and wind can pass through. It brushes your face and carries the scent of the river, faint but present. You look upward and see a slice of sky between walls. Stars are fewer here, washed slightly by lampglow, but the brightest points still hold, and you feel comfort in their steadiness. You keep walking, and your hosts keep guiding, but the guidance now feels less like instruction and more like companionship. You're being shown Babylon's beauty in its maintained state, how the city looks when its records are in place, its water channels flowing, its lamps burning safely, its lions shining in the right light. You pause once, just for a moment, to rest your fingertips against the glazed wall. The enamel is cool under your touch, and you feel the tiny ridges between bricks. Your fingers find a seam, a small crack line in the glaze that resembles dried riverbed patterns. It reminds you that even perfect-looking things carry their own weathering, their own history of enduring. The lions' bodies beside your hand feel solid, their relief lines confident. You trace the curve of a paw, then pull your hand away, not wanting to overtake the moment. You let the blue settle into your eyes like a cool balm. As you move on, the avenue seems to lead you not just through space, but through mood. The city's gentle glow becomes a kind of lull. The lanterns and lamps make the night feel domesticated, safe to inhabit. The quiet celebration makes you feel less alone, even though no one speaks. It's the comfort of being among people who know how to keep things steady. You realize then that Babylon's grandness is not only in towers and terraces. It's in these ordinary acts of care repeated at scale: sweep, pour, wrap, tie, record, light, protect. The festival glow in the processional way is simply those acts made visible, light rippling across blue glaze, lions marching forever, people moving calmly through a city that chooses order as its form of kindness. You walk under the lions a little longer, letting the date sweetness fade from your tongue and the blue light settle deeper into your eyes. Somewhere behind you, the ziggurat stands quiet, its library shelves restored, its watchers satisfied. And somewhere ahead, the night begins to thin toward the hour when even Babylon, stubborn and magnificent, allows itself to rest. The processional way carries you forward until the glow begins to thin, not because the lamps go out, but because the city's gentle celebration settles back into its quieter shape. The lions remain, steady and unbothered, their enamel catching less movement now. You can feel Babylon exhaling again, returning to routine, returning to the calm it seems to prefer when no one is watching. Your hosts guide you off the grand avenue into a side lane that feels familiar in the way a place can feel familiar after only one night, once your body has learned its scents and textures. Brick walls rise close. Lamplight pulls in niches. The air smells of warm earth and cooled smoke. Somewhere nearby, you hear the soft shush of a broom against packed ground, that sound Babylon uses like a lullaby. You pass a courtyard threshold and recognize the coolness before you even see the well. The same stone rim sits at the center, patient and dark-mouthed, and the jars clustered nearby still hold their quiet treasure. A lamp glows in a niche, steady and shielded from drafts. The space feels like a small heart inside the city, keeping rhythm. Your host set down a shallow bowl of water and a folded cloth. You wash your hands again, letting dust and sweetness and blue-glazed memories slide away. The water is cool, stone-tasted, clean. It reminds you of the first drink you took here, when you didn't yet know Babylon would make you feel held. Now you know. You drink another small cup and feel the coolness settle behind your ribs like a final anchor. On the shelf built into the wall, the seals and reed styluses remain in their shallow dish. The damp clay jar sits covered, ready for the next record, the next repair, the next thread that needs tying back into place. You glance at it and feel a small, quiet pride. Tonight you help restore a missing thread. The city's tools are still prepared, but for now they rest. Your host placed something warm into your hands, a piece of flatbread wrapped in cloth so it doesn't lose heat too quickly. The bread is soft, slightly chewy at the edges, and it smells faintly of smoke and oil. You tear a piece slowly. The warmth meets your fingertips. The taste is simple and grounding, the kind of food that doesn't demand attention, only offers steadiness. A small pinch of salt is offered beside it. You touch it to the bread and taste the way salt makes simple things feel complete. The bread settles in your stomach with the same quiet certainty as a well-built wall. You sit for a moment on the woven mat near the well, and the courtyard shade feels like a closing loop. You started at the river, moved through sweetness and blue glaze, climbed into green terraces, rose into the ziggurat's starbound quiet, and returned again to water and bread. Babylon's story circles back to basics. It doesn't end with fireworks. It ends with being cared for in ordinary ways. Your hosts guide you onward once more, not to more spectacle, but to farewells. You move through lanes where lamps are being adjusted lower, where doors are being secured, where jars are being covered. In a small working area near the terraces, you pass the vine beds you tended. You spot the ties you made earlier, twined snug around a support, a cutting tucked into soil, a faint dark patch where you poured water carefully. The plants look the same, and yet, to you, they feel different now. They hold your effort inside them, invisible but real. Under the fig canopy, the air is cooler again, and you catch the faint sweetness of fruit. The spot where you found the tablet, behind that slightly tilted stone, has been returned to alignment. The root gap is closed. The ledge dust has been smoothed. Babylon repairs not only what's missing, but the evidence of strain. It restores the surface so calm can return. You walk a little farther and reach a place where you can see the city spread below, quieter now. The processional way's blue is less visible from here, but you can sense its direction like a memory of color. The ziggurat rises in the distance, still immense, still patient, holding the sky in place. Stars remain above, steady and unbothered by your small human night. Your hosts give you one more gift, a small cloth-wrapped bundle pressed into your hands. It is light. When you open it, you find a few dried herbs, sharp green scent, clean and bright, the kind that clears a tired head without waking it too much. You tuck it close, knowing the scent will follow you later, a little piece of Babylon's coolness you can summon anywhere. You sense the farewell without words. It is in the way your hosts slow their steps, letting you take the last view. It is in the way a lamp is lifted slightly, so you can see a final detail. A brick seam, a water channel, a trellis line. It is in the way hands hover near you, not to hold you back, but to make sure you don't stumble into the night alone. You take one last sip of water from a clay cup offered at a threshold. You let the stone taste settle on your tongue. You take one last bite of bread, warm and grounding. You breathe in the herb scent and feel your chest open. Then you begin the final walk toward the ziggurat steps again, not for problem solving this time, not for searching, but for one last look, one last quiet acknowledgement of the city's layered beauty. Hanging terraces breathing green, glazed lions shining blue, and a star library tucked into brick like a secret heart. Your hosts accompany you until the path naturally widens and their presence eases back, like hands letting go of a child who has learned the way. You continue on with the calm they've given you, carrying water coolness, bread warmth, leaf scent, clay scent, and blue glazed memory in your body. Babylon doesn't ask you to promise you'll remember everything. It seems to understand that sleep will blur details, and that's fine. The city itself remembers in clay, in brick, in routine, in repetition. Your job is simpler, to leave with your mind quieter than when you arrived. You reach the base of the ziggurat once more, look up at its stepped shadow against the star field, and feel a soft, inevitable tenderness in your chest, like saying goodbye to a place that never raised its voice, yet changed you anyway. You climb the first steps of the ziggurat again, but this time the ascent isn't a journey toward knowledge or urgency. It's a closing ritual, a last slow walk up a staircase that has already taught your body how to breathe. Step. Breathe. Step. Breathe. The bricks feel cooler now, as if the night has finally persuaded them to let go of the day's heat. Your palms brush the rough texture, and you feel grounded by it, earth turned firm, earth turned lasting. Behind you, Babylon is quieter than before. The gentle celebration along the processional way has softened into steady lamps and closed doors. Somewhere, a broom continues its soft shush against packed ground, the city's favorite bedtime sound. Somewhere, water is poured into a jar and covered, the city's favorite bedtime habit. You can't see the river from every angle, but you can feel the Euphrates anyway, its presence threaded through everything you've touched tonight: cool cups, channel trickles, damp clay, garden soil. Even the blue glaze on the lion-lined avenue feels like river light made solid. You reach a landing and pause. The higher air meets your face, cleaner and cooler, with a hint of dust and distant smoke. You look out over the city, and Babylon spreads beneath you like a careful arrangement of dark shapes and scattered amber points. Courtyards sit like small, hidden worlds. Lanes curve and disappear. The terraces are a darker mass now, their greenery absorbed into night, yet you still sense them breathing, cool air rising, leaf scent lingering. The processional way is not a bright stripe from here, but you can imagine it, the impossible blue, the repeating lions, the way lamplight makes enamel shimmer like water. Above, the stars are steady, patient, and wide. They don't care about your schedule or your worries. They don't care how productive you were today. They shine anyway. And yet Babylon cares. Babylon has spent the entire night taking your sharp edges and sanding them down with simple things: sweetness, water, shade, repetition, light that is protected from drafts. You climb a few more steps, just enough to feel the ziggurat's height in your legs, And then you stop where the wind is gentle but present. The sky opens wider. The constellations you traced earlier return as familiar shapes rather than random dots. You can almost feel the watcher's calm hands pointing, not in your ear, not in words, but in your memory of motion. Look, mark, breathe. You think about the star library, the shelves lined with tablets like quiet sleepers. You think about the missing tablet and how the city didn't panic. It narrowed its attention, followed smudges and fibers, trusted the smallest clues. You think about finding the bundle behind the tilted stone under fig shade, the date sweetness on its corner like an accidental signature. You think about wiping it clean with cool water, rewrapping it in cloth, sliding it back into its gap until the shelf felt whole again. That moment stays with you because it isn't just a story about a tablet. It's a story about repair. About how a world can wobble slightly and still be restored by patient hands. About how order isn't a rigid cage, it's a kindness you keep building. You let your gaze drop to the city again. Lamps flicker softly. The night air moves through lanes, carrying herb scent, smoke, and brick warmth. Somewhere below, the well waits in its courtyard, stone rim cool, rope coiled neatly. Somewhere, vines rest against their supports, ties snug, leaves drinking the last of the night's moisture. Somewhere, the blue lions continue their eternal stride along the processional way, calm in their repetition, teaching you that forward motion doesn't have to feel like a chase. A quiet tenderness rises in you, the kind that comes when you realize you are leaving a place that held you without demanding anything back. Babylon gave you a rhythm. It fed you. It cooled you. It guided you up to the stars and then back down into bread and water. It let you help, just a little, so you wouldn't feel like a passive guest. It treated you like someone capable of steadiness. You stand there for a long moment, letting the wind brush your face, letting the stars sit in your eyes, letting the city glow below like a low, warm ember. Your breathing slows until it feels like the terrace's water channels, steady, measured, never wasted. Then, without rushing, you turn. You descend the steps carefully, not because you are afraid of falling, but because you want to keep the calm intact. You carry Babylon with you in small, sensory pieces. The taste of dates, the coolness of stone water, the scent of damp soil, the soft scrape of stylus on clay, the blue shimmer of lions under lamplight. These pieces settle into your memory the way wedge marks settle into clay, quietly, decisively. At the base of the ziggurat, you pause one last time and look back. The structure rises into the night, stepped and patient, holding its star library inside like a secret pulse. You feel a brief ache of goodbye, but it's gentle, not sharp. It feels like closing a book you loved, knowing the story remains safe on the shelf, waiting. You take your final breath of Babylon's night air, then let yourself drift onward, away from brick and glaze and terrace green, carrying only what you need, steadiness. And now you let the city recede the way lamp glow recedes when you close your eyes, not disappearing all at once, but softening at the edges until it becomes warmth rather than image. You feel the Euphrates again, not as a river you must cross, but as a slow, cooling presence beneath everything, beneath terraces, beneath streets, beneath the ziggurat steps. You imagine its surface at night dark, calm, catching a few scattered points of light and letting them drift. Your breathing becomes the quietest sound in the room. Inhale, like drawing cool water up through stone. Exhale, like pouring it gently into a jar and covering it safely. Your shoulders sink. Your face relaxes. The muscles in your hands unclench, as if you've finally set down the day's heavy bundles. The blue of the processional way fades into a softer shade behind your eyelids, a deep, soothing color that doesn't demand attention. The lions become less like carved guardians and more like a comforting rhythm, forward, unhurried, steady. The terrace leaves hush together once more, releasing a last faint green perfume. You feel the damp earth under your fingers again, the simple satisfaction of tying twine and guiding a vine into place. In the Star Library, lamps glow low and safe. Tablets rest in their rows, each one holding a small piece of sky, each one quiet and complete. Even the missing tablet is back where it belongs, because patient searching and gentle hands are enough to restore a thread. You let that thought settle deep in you. When something slips out of place, it can often be found again without panic. The world can be repaired. You can be repaired. Your mind, which likes to race, begins to move like stars instead, slow, inevitable, calm. The images stretch out and thin, becoming less detailed, more like sensations: cool stone, warm bread, clean water, soft lamp glow. You don't need to hold on to every scene. Babylon doesn't ask that of you. It already knows how to remember for itself. So you let the city become a distant ember, glowing gently in the dark. You let the ember dim. You let it dim again. And as it fades, you feel safe, held, and unburdened, as if you are wrapped in a quiet cloth and placed somewhere cool and still. End of story. Sweet dreams.